Welcome to the ParentNet podcast by Focus on the Family Singapore. The youth is the hope of our future. Join us as we hear the voices of the next generation and discover how best to support them in life and love.
Hello and welcome to the ParentNet podcast. My name is June and I'm your host for this episode. Today's episode is not so much about raising kids well, but featuring young family champions, young people who are resilient, grounded, confident, and who stand united in their belief about family. And we are hearing from none other than the young people themselves. With us today in the studio are two young ladies, Hannah and Adele, here to share about their FamChamps experience with us. So welcome, ladies. It's so good to have you join us today. Can you share with our listeners a bit about yourselves, maybe starting with Hannah?
Okay, hi, yes, I'm Hannah. Currently, I'm 19 years old, studying social work at Nanyang Polytechnic. Yeah, I'm in my last year of studies. And my mom is actually a staff from Focus as well. I think for me, family has played a very big role in my personal growth. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to sharing more about that with you guys.
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Adele. I'm currently a Polytechnic student studying a diploma in accountancy, and I've been a volunteer with Focus on the Family for about 2 years now. But prior to that, I was a youth participant for one of their youth programs called FamChamps. And a fun fact is that actually Hannah and I have known each other for almost 9 years. Yes. So she was my senior in primary school where we were both in choir together, and later on also in secondary school where we were both part of the same student leader group.
So nice to hear about your little bit of history there between you guys. So tell us a bit about how you got started on this journey to becoming a family champion.
Yeah, I think for me, like Adele mentioned, we were part of the same student leadership body, and actually in our time there, they opened the opportunity up to us to attend the FamChamps camp and 8 months of mentorship. Unfortunately, during that period of time, I was facing quite a bit of burnout. I had a lot of things going on. So I was unable to go for the 8 months program, but that was my first exposure and sort of like a teaser to what FamChamps really is. I think afterwards, when my mom came on as a staff at Focus on the Family, I got to know a little bit more about the work that Focus is doing. And I got very, very interested in it because I saw how it was so meaningful and how it was impacting so many different lives. So through that, I started volunteering. I would come to the office and help out where I could. And I've also attended different focus programs like 1825. And last year, I was also the FamChamps Camp Commandant. Yeah, and currently, I'm part of the FamChamps 4th Council as well.
Thanks, Hannah.
Yeah.
What about you, Adele?
So for me, during the same opportunity where our teacher publicized the FamChamps camp to us, I actually was part of the camp, I went as a camper. So when I heard my teacher publicize what the camp was about, I was quite amazed because I realized it was not the usual kind of camp where we imagine there to be activities like rock climbing, kayaking, hiking, but it was a camp to learn more about the importance of championing family. And to me, I felt like it was needed because at that time, I was in lower secondary, also commonly known as the years where your frontal lobes continue to develop and you start to undergo changes resulting in challenges like emotional regulation. And truly enough, when I entered that stage of life, I was going through some issues such as having low self-esteem and also a very negative perception on family as I experienced increased arguments at home from my family. And at that point, I had constant thoughts like, is family still important? What's the point of a couple getting married if they argue so often? And do people really prioritize work and school more than family relationships? However, I still knew that deep down inside, I had that tiny spark of hope. So perhaps going to this camp would truly make a difference and I would be able to stop having all these negative thoughts on family. And truly enough, during the camp, we got to experience a lot of insightful activities, from workshops on navigating perspectives to playing a game that simulates family life, and even a dinner event where we could invite our parents. But seeing the different profiles of students who came for the camp, some came from functional families, some came from not so functional ones. And one takeaway I got was that ultimately, there is no perfect family, and while we cannot change our family of origin, we can change our perspectives and beliefs on family. So learning that even through such small acts like doing chores or writing letters to my family members, it makes a big impact on them. So after the camp, I was motivated that I could do so much more for family. Hence, I stepped up as an alumni volunteer for FemChamps and Focuses events, which is where I am today.
Wow, that's so inspiring hearing you both, right? And also hearing you, Adele, share about your story at the beginning, how you struggled with self-esteem. I almost cannot imagine because you are here sitting with us doing this podcast and sounding so confident, right?
Yeah.
So you really come a long way. Thanks so much for sharing, guys. So why do you think strong families are so important in shaping who a person becomes?
Actually, for me, in my social work studies, we learn a lot about different issues that people face, may it be children or youth or even parents, and you realize that a lot of issues actually do stem from the family of origin. Yeah, even on the parents' end, they're very impactful as well on how a person is being shaped. I think first of all, when a child is born, all they know is their family, and that is really what will shape their first worldview, their beliefs, and depending on what the parent validates or invalidates, actually that also has a lot of effect on how the child will see themselves and see the people around them as well. So I think that actually strong families are important in shaping identity, in shaping a sense of belonging, which is really what people crave for. I mean, whether we acknowledge it or not, all of us want to have value, all of us want to belong to some place. Yeah, and family is that place for a lot of people. And in families, I mean, children learn how to love, they know how to communicate. And I think these are the fundamental things of, being a human. Yeah, and it really does start from that one point for me, how having a strong family was important for me. I mean, families aren't perfect. Definitely mine isn't as well. I definitely was shaped by my mother's love for me and how that gave me a lot of emotional security and how that shaped the way I view relationships as well. That even though it isn't always perfect, but it can be strengthened and it can get better.
For me, I think I agree with what Hannah said, that family is the first touch point an individual has with life. Life literally begins with family because it is where we first learn how to crawl, walk, and speak, but also where we develop the emotional foundation that shapes the kind of person we become. So the way that family members communicate, resolve conflicts, and treat one another often becomes a child's first understanding of relationships and human interaction. So not sure if our listeners know about the nature versus nurture framework. So nature refers to inherited traits, be it biological like eye and hair color, or personality traits like a child being naturally shy and quiet from a young age, while nurture refers to what influences a person, like the environment they grow up in and the social interactions they experience. And family is one of the clearest examples of nature versus nurture. Through nature, a child may naturally inherit certain traits from their parents, such as being short-tempered or introverted. However, nurture also strongly affects how the child grows up. For example, if a child is constantly exposed to shouting, arguments, and harsh communication at home, the child may become fearful, aggressive, or start using bad words when dealing with other peers in school. And on the other hand, if parents communicate calmly and talk through problems properly instead of immediately scolding or shouting, the child is more likely to learn how to control emotions and handle conflicts maturely. So, although teachers and other people can also nurture a child by teaching good values in school during their CCE or school lesson, family usually has the biggest influence because it is a child's first environment in life. A child may learn in school to sit down and talk things out during disagreements, but if the child constantly sees parents shouting at each other at home, the child may think, that behavior is normal and correct. So though a child's values and behavior can still change through new experiences and guidance later in life, the question is, at what point will a child realize that the behaviors they grew up with since young may not actually be healthy? So therefore, I think that family truly plays a huge role in shaping a child's beliefs, values, behavior, and actions.
Wow, well said. Hearing a lot of the identity, the sense of belonging, the values, and then the behavior as well. So many things actually are learned and caught in the family environment, right? Because like you said, it's really a child's first, school in that sense.
Yeah.
It's the first environment, it's the first place where they see like humans, interacting with one another. And very often, they learn different habits from whatever their parents may model. I really like what you said, Adele, about the learning whether it's correct or right to just shout when you're upset, or do we learn to talk things through calmly. And this really forms the emotional foundation, like you said, the emotional learning as well for the child. In your own experience, or maybe with what your peers may tell you or share with you, what happens when these connections within the home are weak?
I think that oftentimes I've heard peers sharing that their parents put a lot of emphasis on only academic achievements with them. Like let's say it's 8 p.m. and their parents just got home. They're actually very excited to tell their parents about how their day went at school. But instead, the first question that their parents ask them is, have you done your homework? Or why aren't you studying? Your bedtime is soon, go and study now and like stop wasting time. And before you know it, the parents proceed to wash up as it has been a long day of work for them too. And they just go to the room, turn off the lights and sleep, and everything is done for the day. There's completely like no communication at all. When parents constantly micromanage their children to only be high academic achievers, possibly to get a perfect score of like AL4 for their PSLE, 5 points for their N-levels, O-levels, the list goes on. And if parents mostly put the emphasis on academic success, on the surface it may look like the family is very well-to-do with academically inclined children. Hence comes the assumption that they are happy. But if good results were all that the parents ever cared about and emotional connection was neglected at home, the child may grow up thinking that love is conditional upon success, like good exam results, rather than being appreciated for who they are as a person. So in this case, there's an absence of emotional connection in the family. As a result, the child or youth may feel fearful, thinking that failure only makes them less worthy to their parents. They may feel worthless, thinking that they can never be good enough for their parents. And lastly, they may feel misunderstood. Maybe my parents may think I'm lazy, but in real life, I'm already working so hard and it feels like I'm just a good results machine. So all these emotions that start to accumulate inside them, and one day the pressure will be like too much that they don't know how to cope.
I think that's a very common scenario, right? And that question parents often ask, have you done your homework? As the first question, that pops out. And I think I can kind of relate to that because sometimes when I'm stressed or when I'm busy and hurried, right, coming home from work, sometimes that's the first question that comes to mind as well. And that pops out of my mouth. And yeah, there's so much that we as parents need to also catch ourselves doing. Is this something that you have heard of or experienced among your friends as well, Hannah?
Yeah, definitely. I think, the fact of life is that family is our foundation, right? Every single day, no matter what we do or where we go, we have to come back home to our families and to interact with them, whether it be over a meal or over a short conversation. Yeah, so definitely I think that it is something that all of us face, that coming back home. And I think sometimes we always don't understand. As a student, as a child, I used to feel sometimes a bit upset. Like, why is it that when I come home, this is the first response I get? But I think it also comes with understanding that I'm not the only human at home. But that my parents are humans as well and they can make mistakes as well. So I think, like, for me personally, I really learned how to show grace and how to even embrace my parents as they are. Actually, when a family is weak and you have to go back to that same family where the relationship and the connection maybe isn't really there, but actually it creates a lot more stress than there's supposed to be. Because we all desire for our home and for our family to be a place of rest, a place where we can be ourselves and, let loose, relax after a long day of school or work. But when the family relationship is weak, sometimes they can cause small conflicts that can even have long-term impact. The little abrasions that cause like a much bigger wound is something that definitely does happen among my peers. And it's very evident to see, unfortunately.
Hannah, you mentioned about showing grace to your parents and also that realization that you are not the only human in the home, right? And your parents are human too, right? They get tired, they get anxious, and sometimes, we may say words that hurt each other. And it sounds like you both have come through this journey of being a family champion. If there are other youths hearing this podcast, right, and they might be feeling exactly like how we've been describing, this sense of, does nobody care about my day apart from whether I've done my homework or not? Does anybody care about my well-being really at home? If there is a youth who's feeling this way, how might you encourage this young person?
I think it really does come from the basis of our perception of what family is. I think for many youths, in fact, I've heard from my own peers, and one of my friends said that she feels like family is an obligation. That is something that she can't choose, not like how you can choose friends, you can choose who you want to hang out with, but at the end of the day, you can't choose your family. So she really did feel like it's a burden to her that every single day I have to go back home to see these same faces, to have these interactions again and again. Yeah, but I think that when we shift our perspective to see that how family can be such a gift, and not just a gift to us, but how we can also be that gift of our presence to other people as well. That as much as our parents and siblings add value to our own life, hey, we add value to their lives as well.
So seeing family as a gift can help the young person to shift the perspective a little bit, right? From maybe expecting family to do certain things to seeing actually, what part can I play? Adele, what do you think about this? How might you encourage a young person who might be feeling a bit disconnected from their family?
Like what Hannah said, a youth is not the only human at home. Our parents are also humans and everyone makes mistakes. So not every controlling parent is selfish. Not every quiet parent is unloving. And not every parent who raises his or her voice is mean. It may just be a case of they care, but they don't know how to show it. So always take the opportunity to always view the situation from the other perspective. We all lead our own busy lives, and maybe my parents just came home and actually they had a very stressful day at work. That's why they're like not talking to me, only ask me, have I done my homework? I think it is important to maybe give some breathing space and just wait for like maybe everything will be better the next day to actually tell my parents, oh, actually last night I wanted to tell you about this, but you were so busy, so I let you like rest first.
Yeah, that's such a good point that you brought up, right? That it goes back to showing grace. It goes back to recognizing that, hey, my parents might have had a hard day too. It's not just me who had a really tiring and long school day, right? So actually giving some space to our parents, giving some space to even siblings perhaps to sometimes be alone or recuperate in their room can actually help the family. And also it's like a small way of doing our part. So having come some way in your journey as Fam Champs, what does it really mean to you to be a family champion?
I think for me, the word intentional comes to mind. Yeah, I think sometimes we're not always very intentional with our family. We tend to be careless. We tend to slip back into, the same old, the usual way of interacting with them. Yeah, but being a family champion, I would say it really does take some effort. Yeah, whether we like it or not, it does take some effort. It takes some intentionality to take that step, to push forward past the awkwardness, past the familiarity of how things usually are. Yeah, I think for the peers that I speak to about this, usually the thing that stops them from wanting to champion family is really that sense of, so weird, so awkward. Like, must I really affirm my parents like that? Must I really say I love you? Yeah, and I think that sometimes these things are difficult to get past because they are not what we're used to. But I think that because a strong family is the cornerstone of having a strong identity, it is important to push past these different things and to really choose to make a stand for family.
Even if it's not in your family culture to express love in words, right? You might be like, it's so mushy. How do I tell my parents that I love them, right? Don't be contented with whatever patterns or current dynamics that your family may have, because every little thoughtful action, like you said, intentional, can make a positive change, right? And we just may not know until we try. So that's a really good point. Thanks, Hannah. How about you, Adele? What do you think?
I often hear this quote that Singapore is materially rich but relationally poor. And I think that as a part of culture, it's natural for us Singaporeans to focus more on other things like doing well for our exams, getting a high-paying job, and we seek happiness in achieving all of these results. But as you know, every day we see in the news and forums on how the job market is getting so competitive that youth worry about whether they can even find a job upon graduating. I think this is where family is even more important. As Singapore gets more advanced with infrastructure, all the more we need strong families to continue thriving as a strong nation. So even for myself, I had the experience of always placing my identity on doing well in school, and when I had setbacks and wondered why can't I ever be good at my history exam? Why did I fail to get the leadership position I want when I felt like I worked so hard for it? Or why is it so difficult to maintain a consistent GPA and now I'm in poly? All these things start to cramp up in my mind. But at the end of the day, I realized I still have a loving family. I have a dad who will always share funny stories with me and buy me only the best hawker food. I have a mother who is always willing to listen whenever I rant about things that upset or annoy me. I have a sister that can't wait to share with me about all the things that are happening at school. And even extending further, I have a grandfather who always takes care of me when my parents are busy at work. And I even am privileged enough to have a domestic helper who has stayed with my family for many, many years just to help with the household chores and cook yummy food for me. And most importantly, I think I still have a roof over my head and a comfortable bed to sleep on. So does it really matter even if I don't have a 4.0 GPA? I still come from a family of 4. They will be there for me even when times are difficult.
Wow, that's such a powerful reframe, Adele. I love what you said. Let's not get caught up with all the, the performance and the achievement metrics. What I'm hearing is there's so much gratitude, right? For what you have. You're actually counting each person as like a little blessing, to be thankful for. Yeah, so that's so lovely. Thank you both so much for sharing with us your thoughts, and experiences as a youth and as a family champion. Before we let you go, any last words or tips that you might want to share with other young people who might be listening in to today's episode?
I think for many of us, time is our greatest resource. Yeah, and I would say that family is a very, very worth it kind of thing to invest in. So I would say to all the young people and even for the parents as well, to choose to invest in family because it is worth it. Yeah, and do not wait for the perfect time because the perfect time will never come. Yeah, so the time really is now. There's no need to wait. Invest in family.
And I think for me, the most important thing will be to have healthy communication at home, to listen and not judge. By listening, I mean sitting down with the family and talking to each other face to face, finding out about how we all feel. Like, there are often times where I want to talk to my mom at home, but she walks away to the room trying to retrieve something, and I'll be like, "Mom, come back." And her response will be like, "I can still hear you, my house isn't that big." And I know it's quite funny, but then I'll tell my mom, I'm like, "No, Mom, but I want to talk to you face to face because I respect you, and I also want to be respected by you sitting here and listening to what I have to share." And then she'll come back to where I am, and I start telling her about my day. Because anyone can say that communication is important, but by demonstrating what healthy communication looks like, it brings the message to family saying that, "Hey, I'm sitting here talking to you because I want to know about your day and I respect you, and this is how you should also respect others when talking to them." So I think for me, communication is the most important part because just a simple "how are you" can go a long way.
Wow, and it's really the presence, right, that I'm hearing, that you value your mom's presence when you want to talk to her, and you want her to also value you, right, even as you have exciting things to share with her. So that's wonderful. Communication and invest in your family. Thank you, Adele and Hannah. I've enjoyed today's episode so much. So thank you once again for being here with us.
Yes, thank you as well.
Hey, if you are interested to find out more about FemChamps, do visit our website at femchamps.sg. And that's all we have for today. We hope you have enjoyed this youthful episode. Do keep tuning in to the Parentnet podcast to learn and grow in your parenting journey.